What's up, gamers? It's Absurd here, and I've got a quick and dirty guide on how to pick your class in Lord of the Rings Online. We've got 11 classes and 11 minutes to cover them, so let's go. Beornings are descended from Beorn, who you might know from the Hobbit book or the movies. They shapeshift back and forth between man and bear form. That's going to be their unique mechanic in the game. They are a melee class, and they get to wear heavy armor. Their main combat mechanic is going to be with Wrath, so it's an energy management mechanic where you can use certain skills to add Wrath to your pool and then cash out that Wrath for more powerful abilities and effects. Beornings have 3 specializations. One is for tanking, one is for DPS, and the other is for healing. I recommend picking this class if you really like the fantasy of shape-shifting and you're looking for something that's durable and fights in melee. The Burglar class is inspired by Bilbo Baggins, and their unique mechanic revolves around stealth. They are a melee class, they wear medium armor. Burglars have 3 main combat mechanics, the first of which is being stealth, the second of which is critical hit response, where they will unlock extra abilities to use in response to scoring a critical hit. Burglars get access to tricks, which are various debuffs and crowd control abilities. They also have 3 specializations, and each one leans into a different one of these mechanics. The main roles for a burglar will be DPS or debuff support through their tricks. I would recommend playing the burglar class if you really enjoy the fantasy of being sneaky and infiltrating into camps of enemies or beguiling your foes with tricks. The next class we have here is the Brawler, and I have not purchased this class yet. I have way too much fun playing the other 10 classes to really feel like I need to spend points to get into this one. Brawler would be the class for you if you really just want to punch orcs in the face. Next, there's the Captain, which was my first class in Lotro 15 years ago. Captains are inspired by characters like Boromir or Eärnur, the last king of Gondor. The Captain is a melee class that wears heavy armor and has shields. Captains are unique in that they are one of 2 pet classes in Lotro, and I say pet, but really their companion is a banner herald that they can summon to give passive buffs to themselves and the rest of the group. Captains are also unique in that their whole class is themed around supporting allies. So despite them having a specialization for damage, one for healing, and another for tanking, any way that the captain specializes is going to still support the group. They also have a Shield Brother mechanic where they can select a specific ally or their herald to be the passive recipient of some buffs from various skills that the captain might use in combat. Their main combat gameplay is going to revolve around battle states where they will open combat with cries, and the cries will unlock other abilities to use down the line. Some captain abilities are also enhanced when they are used after defeating an enemy in combat. Captain is a great choice for you if your main draw to MMOs is teaming up with allies and supporting them. Next we have the Champion class, which is the main melee DPS class in the game. Champions are inspired by characters like Gimli, who enjoy wading into combat with weapons flailing. Champions utilize an energy management system called Fervor, where using quicker or weaker strikes will add Fervor, and then you can spend that Fervor for more devastating hits or huge AoE attacks. Champions also wear heavy armor, but they don't get access to shields despite having a tank specialization. This makes them a little less effective than the other tanking classes in the game, but they still have some niche use and can be quite survivable in solo play if you utilize the tanking spec. I recommend the Champion class if you enjoy doing huge burst damage either to single targets or in big AoEs. The Guardian class is inspired by Samwise Gamgee, as they are fierce protectors of those they love. Guardians were the main tanking class in Lotro on launch in Shadows of Angmar. As you can see here, they utilize shields, although in their DPS line, it's usually preferred to use a heavy 2-handed weapon. The main Guardian combat mechanic involves parry and block response, where parrying or blocking an attack will unlock a chain of skills for you to use. Guardians are very survivable and excel in the tanking role, but as I mentioned, they can also DPS. I recommend the Guardian class if you enjoy responsive combat and being very survivable to defend your allies. Next we have the Hunter, which is the first ranged combat class that we've discussed. The Hunter class is inspired by Legolas, and while you can't pull off a bunch of the slick stunts that Legolas pulls off in the movies, you can specialize your Hunter to be mobile in combat as opposed to a stationary sniper. Hunters also have a specialization that relies heavily on traps, which can be quite fun if that is your fantasy. The main combat mechanic for Hunter is energy management using their focus. Many of the Hunter's skills require an induction timer, and these skills will typically be the ones that add to your focus pool, and they also have heavily damaging instant cast skills that will cash out your focus. Hunters are unique in that they have tracking skills for the various types of enemies in Middle-earth, and they also have access to group travel skills where they can teleport themselves and their allies to various locations. Hunter is a great class for solo beginners, and I recommend it to you if none of the other classes seem particularly attractive, or if you really enjoy the fantasy of being a ranged sniper. The Lore Master is inspired by characters like Gandalf or Elrond Half-Elven. They are also the second and final pet class in the game. Lore Masters will employ a zoo of different animal pets that each have unique abilities to debuff enemies. Most of the Lore Master skills have induction timers, like I mentioned for the Hunter. This class really plays into the fantasy as standing back and concentrating on your powerful spell that when it finally goes off does huge destructive damage to groups of enemies. The different Lore Master specializations allow you to focus on that mega AoE damage, or on enhancing your pet, or finally on supporting your group through debuffing enemies. It's important to note that each pet has different abilities and may excel in different situations, but universal to all the pets is the flanked mechanic, which while it's active will enhance some of your Lore Master abilities. Additionally, I really enjoy the Lore Master smoking pipe weed to revive their fallen allies. I recommend the Lore Master class for players who really enjoy classic wizard fantasy. Next is the Minstrel, which is inspired by Luthien. Their aesthetic is a lot like the typical bard trope that you'll see in other games. They are a ranged magical class, and they can wear light armor and also get access to shields. In the base game at launch, Minstrels were the de facto healers of the game, but since then they've gained access to various stances that enable you to change your playstyle. If you're going for the healing playstyle, you'll be casting a lot of induction-based spells, whereas the overall gameplay mechanic of the Minstrel will rely on comboing ballads together to unlock more powerful anthems and then cash out all of your buffs for devastating codas. In addition to DPS or healing, Minstrels can be built to provide kind of a hybrid buff support playstyle. I recommend the Minstrel class to you if you enjoy the bard fantasy, or like the idea of screaming at an orc until it dies. Next is the Rune-keeper, which is inspired by the elf lord Celebrimbor. Rune-keepers are a magical class that harnesses words of power inscribed on runestones to deal devastating attacks or heal their allies. They also have a unique energy management system with their attunement, where using damaging spells will attune you more to damage, and using healing spells will attune you more to healing. Having a higher attunement towards one playstyle will increase the effectiveness of your spells of that type. Rune-keepers, unlike Lore Masters, have the ability to specialize into a more highly mobile casting playstyle, which can be highly rewarding for players who want to cast on the move. The Rune-keeper has great versatility in that you can swap from damage to healing pretty quickly, which can make it a fun class for solo play. I recommend Rune-keeper for players who enjoy the versatility of being able to swap from damage to healing and cast all their spells while they're on the run. Finally, we have the Warden, which is inspired by the elven protectors of Lothlorien. Wardens are unique in several ways, the first of which being that they have a stance for melee combat and a stance for ranged combat. They are a medium armor class that uses shields, and their playstyle is that of the skirmisher, engaging enemies from a distance and closing with them to destroy them in melee combat. The combat mechanic of the Warden class is unlike any I've seen in any other game. Whereas most classes have access to most of their skills most of the time, the Warden playstyle centers around having 3 base skills that you can chain together in various combinations to unlock more powerful skills. The fact that most of the Warden skills do not appear on your quick slot bar and require memory to recall instantaneously in combat makes Warden a pretty challenging class for a lot of players. Wardens can excel at melee and ranged DPS as well as tanking. Also at higher levels, Wardens will unlock travel skills that allow them to rally to various ranger encampments across Middle-earth. I recommend the Warden class if you enjoy the challenge of memorization and of thinking ahead in combat to know what you're going to need before you need it. Alright, that's my summary of the classes in Lord of the Rings Online. If this guide helped you, please like and subscribe for more content in the future, and consider stopping by my Patreon to buy me a beer and show your appreciation. Until next time, enjoy the journey.